Hey there, this is Editor Eve back again. Just wanted to shout out two things real quick before we start today's episode. First, Patreon. There will be a Patreon in the description, and if you happen to like what I do or want to support me, you can view the full unedited clips in my Patreon, and you'll get access to my Discord server and secret channels in there and everything, and yeah. And secondly, just a forewarning that all of the audio in this is a bit jank. I had to do some editing in post. My recording messed up, and it was a bit unlucky, but I'm not going to trash the conversation as a whole because I still think it's worth listening to, even if it hurts a little to listen to. I mean, it's long, but it's a good conversation, I think. And I don't want to deprive y'all of what we have to say on the topic. So, yeah, without further ado, here is me and BanaNate.
All right, I'm recording.
Oh, your voice got a bit quieter.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Is that better?
no. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Okay,
you should be good. Sorry.
good, good.
All right. Oh, shit. I
Icebreakers.
mean, well, we have the do that cheat sheet you gave me. I was at work when you sent me it, and I didn't get the chance to look at it until like 30 minutes ago. And thank you for having like pre-thought ideas for this,
For
because I
sure.
mean I've been too busy. Like I know for sure. I'm curious about your perspective specifically with how. I mean, you were talking about you were in high stressful, high stress situations, and I mean, you've seen the dirty stuff within military, specifically, and a few other places. Could you remind me of them again?
Yeah, so I served 10 years in the U.S. Army as a diesel technician, mostly for power generation and power grids. But, and you've seen my soldier record brief. I've
Mm-hmm.
served as HR, as IG, so Inspector General, as a clerk, like a postal clerk, as a training um, manager, right? So I'd be in charge of like training entire, like hundreds or even thousands of soldiers for
Oh no.
various reasons. Yeah. And then also uh, retention. So like career counseling, but also like re-enlisting soldiers or helping them change their job, and then more HR and more maintenance as a mechanic technician. So yeah, I've had a
Hmm.
pretty unique career in that regards. It's very unusual to have a soldier do all those things. It's more so I just was capable and really I don't feel like I went above and beyond. I just felt like I did my job, you know,
Your duty,
and I
yeah. It,
cared.
it sounds it sounds like you were a public servant, kind of, in a capacity, or just like is a glorified public servant? I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm
you're
right for
you're
saying that, but
yeah, you are. And it's funny. I learned probably 4 years into my 10 year career when I was doing uh, leadership training, formal, in order to become a sergeant. That sergeant is actually Latin for servant from the Roman like times. So there's a lot of parallels. People say, "What's your Roman Empire?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? We're still in a Roman Empire."
oh my god, yeah. And I'm hearing those more and more often as we get closer to that 250th year mark for America. Ooh, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure rhymes. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
amen.
yeah, like how it feels kind of silly to ask, but how would you rate your time in service, I guess? Like, how long were you? were you in service for total?
So literally like almost exactly 10 years. And the only reason it wasn't longer was like medical reasons. Um, and so I would rate my time almost as soon as you said that, I thought of the Charles Dickens quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Um,
That's been a
it
fucking
it
mood.
was yeah, it was freaking crazy at times. I have stories of incidents that you literally would not find in a Hollywood movie. A bit seems so absurd. There's a lot of dwell time in the military. There's a famous term, you hear it all the time. It's called hurry up and wait because it's a government job. You're going to wait a lot on like bureaucracy.
Mhm.
And then when shit hits the fan, oh my God, it's just a emergency after emergency after emergency. And sometimes it gets absurdist to the point where you're like, if the American public ever found out about this specific day, it would be on the news. And so, me having seen that on the inside made me realize really not to put people on a pedestal and to just, people are people, right? Like, I know that a lot of people um, revere the military. I love my military brothers and sisters, but I've also seen how the sausage is made. So I'm always just very neutral now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and
They're still
it's
people.
such a it's such a difficult argument because there's so many different variables involved, and yeah, there's still people. Everyone does what they do for a reason. Everyone has a reason for being there, just like you did. What was your reason for joining the military originally?
Um, yeah, I actually hated the government. I was a punk, like scene kid. I would listen to System of a Down.
Really?
I would listen to heavy metal and rock and like Rage Against the Machine. And I remember not wanting to go to college, but also I didn't do it for the money. I didn't do it because of college, because I needed college or wanted college paid off. I didn't have a plan, but I knew that I remember feeling like I needed to actually see the system inside in order to actually judge the system and evaluate it. And I was a lost kid, you know. I was 10 years old when 9/11 happened. So that gets imprinted and seared in your brain. You do believe some form of that lie of like, oh, America is the good guy always and can never do anything wrong ever. But also, I had a cognitive dissonance, uh, opposite side on that parallel of there's something inherently wrong with the system and I want to see what it looks like on the inside. So that's an incredibly different response to most people. Most people say I needed money, the economy was bad. I needed college money. I
Mhm.
wanted college. That's actually the majority of the answers. But because I was kind of this arguably spoiled middle class, lower middle class child, I wanted something to prove. Part of it was ego. I wanted to look cool. Right? I played Call of Duty 4, but I knew it wasn't going to be Call of Duty 4. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
So there was like a plethora of reasons, but I'd have to say the number one reason was I was very curious on what the system looked like, and having watched, I mean, I wasn't a big conspiracy theorist, but I had definitely watched Loose Change 9/11 and Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore. Loose Change is like by uh, it's a conspiracy theorist video about how 9/11 was like a completely false flag. And so I did have some background like of distrust and mistrust and like what's going on with the system, but also I did have hope. So when I joined in 2009, I I got to see everything and I just took mental notes. I wish I could have written more down, but I have stories that will probably never leave my brain like ever. So we can get into that too.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a lot to take in, and I because I've also grown up kind of as a middle to lower class, kind of spoiled, but not really a kid. I mean, I don't know. The only major things that happened to me in my life so far were COVID and getting diagnosed with tuberculosis, and it, that alone, I say that alone, there was so much more stuff compounding on
That's
top
a
of that
lot.
that
That's already a
that
lot.
all happened, and
And you know what?
my point
Everyone
being, like,
everyone went through COVID
uh,
differently. Yeah, what was your
yeah,
point? Sorry.
yeah, uh, my point being, I've been at the end of my rope before. I know what that looks like when I'm barely hanging on by a thread, mentally, physically, whatever it may be. And I mean, it's like the complete opposite end of the spectrum, but it's like it loops back around like a circle or something. It,
Like Ouroboros, the snake eating his
yeah,
tail.
yeah. I mean, we come from uh, similar, but also completely different. Like I took the passive depression route,
I took the
and I
active
mean, yeah,
depression route.
but it
Also,
comes with
I have to say,
PTSD.
even though we all went through COVID, it feels like deja vu with this president again. We already had him. We already had him. And then we took like this
Hmm.
slumber, like this break, and now we have him again. So people, cognitively, people are going to get deja vu in good, bad, and neutral ways. People haven't really thought about that, like how that affects them cognitively, psychologically as well.
What do you mean? Do you mean are you implying that it has like a big impact on what their future choices? Because I mean, I didn't even really think about deja vu in relation to the Trump administration until you just brought it up. But it does make a lot of sense. I mean, it
Yeah. So
America's
I can say that we look at the two countries that he's effectively bullying right now, Iran and Venezuela. He was he had taken out General Soleimani December 19 or January 2020, I believe, 2 months before COVID. And then people were joking on social media we were going to get into a war with Iran in January 2020. I remember this. And so we're getting parallels as like he took a 4 year break and he's like, okay, I'm back and I didn't forget. And we had the bunker busters in June, destroying their nuclear silo. But what people don't see or realize is these things are extremely kinetic when they pop off. But like I said, it's hurry up and wait. The bureaucracy, it's 99% hurry up and wait. Strategizing, planning, the war machine of this empire is sometimes like a slow moving ship where it's prepo, which is a military term, prepositioning. Preposition the ships. You preposition the planes on the carriers on the ships. You preposition land troops like what we saw in Ukraine, and then you strike like a viper, or you seemingly get attacked out of nowhere, this innocent empire, and then we defend ourselves.
mm, I could not imagine just having that much downtime in all of my days. How often would you say per day you had to hurry up and wait?
So it really depends. There's a lot of days in the military, it will feel like Groundhog Day. And then there will be days upon days, weeks upon weeks, even months upon months. That's a little rare, where it's just kinetic. You're either training, you're going to you're going to weapons ranges or qualification ranges. They don't necessarily have to be weapons ranges, like depending on your job, but you'll also do like team building, right? And you'll do a lot of physical fitness in that off time. So you
Hmm.
a lot of the hurry up and wait bureaucracy is actually in the big moving pieces of either moving equipment, moving personnel, or um, just trying to figure out a safer route to complete a mission. Right? We used to call it composite risk management. And the army and the military in general do take safety and security extremely seriously. Um, as a whole, usually when you see something terrible happen on the news, like soldiers losing their lives in like a freak flash flood that's happened at Fort Hood, Texas, a few times, or like a freak accident, a training accident with a jet, crashing or whatever, something went wrong like 5 times in a row. They call it in aviation. Five, they call it the Swiss cheese model. 5 things have to go wrong in a row for you to have an aviation crash. So you can think of it like that, like a Swiss cheese model. If something does go wrong, it's a lack of planning, but the military still enables you to be able to adapt, improvise, and overcome and still accomplish the mission, even if you get less, like especially with the Marines. Their budget is the lowest in the service, but what do we know Marines as? Devil dogs, tenacious. They'll use a bayonet if they have to at the last line. That's also coming from their training in boot, where they are broken down and literally like psychologically molded into a killing machine.
Yeah, I've heard of some of those camps, and they do things like sleep deprivation. I've seen like they put people linked together on a beach, and you sit there for like an amount of day. It's
Yeah, Navy
crazy.
SEALs
And
and Marines too.
when
Yeah,
when was the last time you heard about the Navy or the SEAL teams like losing a battle or a mission? I whatever that would be
yeah, it's
termed
rare.
as.
It's rare, and but you know that's the thing too. The news is it's a lot of the outliers. So when you do see it on the news, that's incredibly rare to lose like uh, troops in combat or whatever. We think of, the two wars in Iraq and Afghanistan as extremely dangerous, and they were, but they paled in comparison to Vietnam. I mean, I think it's an order of 10 times deadlier in Vietnam.
A magnitude larger. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
Vietnam was incredibly dangerous because it was asymmetrical jungle warfare, guerrilla warfare. Whereas Iraq is mostly a desert with mountain ranges and a lot of urban warfare. And the
mm,
technology improved so drastically from the 70s to the 2000s with like surveillance. I call it ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and also in Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan was incredibly different. We invaded in '01, 2 years before the Baghdad invasion. But Afghanistan has something that very few conflicts had, except for maybe Italy, World War II, and that's high mountain ranges. And high mountain ranges are one of the most
mm,
difficult pieces of terrain to uh, commit offensive military action against. It's
It
incredibly
seems
difficult.
like paratroopers are like the easiest way to. I remember hearing about because I used to be a big history buff, specifically World War II in Italy, and I remember hearing about just how well defended they were. You had to use paratroopers to get them. I don't think at the time had basically any other technology other than hot air balloons that dropped explosives. I think something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Like
we see those instances of like even um American troops using balloon tanks to trick the Nazis into having more tanks, and they didn't. They were literally just inflatable balloons shaped like tanks. So yeah, World War II was crazy from the history books that we see. Um, I did want to talk to you about more of that COVID, and
sure.
um, we can get back to the military stuff, but before I forget, that way we have it on the podcast. I think it was you said we talked about like what it's like to be essentially different under an administration that feels like they don't like you, you know.
It's it's certainly something. So, what is it? For reference, I transitioned. I want to say start of 2024. No, uh, sometime around April 2024. And what is it? That was when Biden was still president, and I didn't really think about the political ramifications of being trans because that's a thing that matters, of course. And when the election came around, I was actually working with a labor union, doing remote work, and we were just calling people up saying like, "Hey, government did X, Y, Z. What'd you think?" And I mean, I got to hear opinions on both sides of the board, both from Trump supporters and potentially anti-trans people, and vice versa. And I remember that I loved that job because it let me see beyond the party lines, because those party lines are oh so bold, and yet considering what's happened in Trump's like first year of his presidency, you can see you have probably seen them over the past year just kind of fizzling out because I mean Trump is just screwing everyone over. It's
He's
not
yeah.
really a left or right thing. I mean,
I mean, I
and
have neighbors that
uh,
they were Team Trump. They loved Trump. Everything about him. They will not bring him up anymore in front of me. They're like, and I talked to them. I've been like, here in Texas, hey, what's your boy doing? They're like, I don't know. This isn't what I wanted. It's like, what did you
and I
want?
was gonna yeah, like have you been able to have like a deep conversation with them and I guess try to understand their line of reasoning?
Um, yeah, a lot of it is psychologically based on being hurt and being afraid. And we can get into that. That's such a deep, that's just surface level psychology, and them wanting not so much retribution. There are people who do want retribution, want revenge, but wanting to be taken care of and knowing that the government has their back, which I'd argue is extremely tribal. And that goes into what we were going to talk about with mass hypnosis in the populace and Psy Ops.
Mm,
So
I I thought you were gonna segue into the silo thing from there.
the silo, what was the silo thing?
You had mentioned like thinking.
Oh, the
Oh,
silos.
quote. Where is it? Where is it? How thinking in systems rather than silos helps people survive and better
Yeah.
perform better in chaotic modern environments.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So we can think of group think. Like, what is group think or group thought? Group thought is, well, I
Shared
want to hear your
consciousness.
answer. yeah, social consciousness. But that's extremely malleable, right? It's cultural as well. We learned that from an anthropological standpoint, we really haven't evolved in 200,000 years. I mean, we're still this segues into more of what I was going to communicate on, but technology has outpaced the human brain's ability to adapt to it, and it continues to go logarithmically, right? Um, so our brains have not changed in 200,000 years, according to Chase Hughes. And Chase Hughes is amazing. He's a retired warrant officer. He did psychological operations for the U.S. Army for 20 years, and he is, without a doubt, the foremost expert in Psy Ops and brainwashing and hypnosis for the U.S. government. He has done, you can find him on YouTube. He has done a lot for the government. Um, and he's also helping people now with basically unlocking their minds and knowing the warning signs of current psyops in the United States and the world right now, not just from social media, but like things the government does in patterns, kind of like a repeating history
Oh.
thing.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, what do you determine as a psyop? Like, what's your definition of it?
So a psyop is anything, like I said, psychological operation where you are um, priming and pre-programming and then programming a populace. So in the army, we would actually, not me personally, right? That wasn't my MOS, my military occupational specialty. That wasn't my job. I was a mechanic. But our PSYOP teams would send flyers, right, before a major attack in an urban area. Okay. Our PSYOP team would learn if, uh, and in the worst of it, right, we can alter detainee behavior by playing the same song over and over again in a Iraqi jail. What does that sound like? I'll let you figure that out. Um, we can. So there were good, like I said, there were good things and bad things, but because I was in my youth, you don't notice the bad things, like immediately, or you'll find out years later from a news journalist who leaked information they found out about WikiLeaks. Like there was a Iraq famous WikiLeaks video of, I think it was an Apache helicopter pilot, and he's just mowing down like one or two civilians in a Iraqi town, and then he brags about it on the microphone. So that
That's
it's an old video, and the government under Bush, and then Obama, and then Trump, all crucified Julian Assange for those WikiLeaks, despite the fact that he may have obtained them illegally, but it was covering illegal actions and war crimes, like en masse, and illegal surveillance. That's what Edward Snowden got in trouble for. So it's like one thing that the the they try to teach you in the military, if you have good morals, good leadership values, is don't be a hypocrite, have integrity. But it's very frustrating from a bureaucratic standpoint when you're a good soldier, you're doing the right thing, and then they catch a colonel or a general like above you in like a major marriage affair, or that's happened, or someone is getting kickback bribes or something. So it's like, how do you fix that as an institution without doing major damage? It's very difficult not to. The damage is already done.
I was I wanted to ask you a few things specifically about like how that I mean the topic you were getting into about how do you punish that? How would you? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you can threaten a colonel or a general or like are there different types of could you give me like a crash course of the
There was a
military judicial branch, I guess?
sure. There was basically if the scandal gets enough eyes and ears and you're not a certain rank, you it's all dependent on your rank. We used to joke about that all the time. We would see
Hmm.
senior ranking people have a DUI offense or a marriage issue or something, and they'd get a slap on the wrist. And then you'd see a private, a junior, fresh in the army private, do the same thing, and it's get kicked out. You're done. No excuse.
Seniority.
Yeah, so the seniority issue. But in the case of General Petraeus, he got caught in a marriage affair because of Google Gmail. He was messaging his Boothang, his assistant, I believe, on Gmail, and he was writing drafts. So he would write something, and then she would write back, and they would delete the draft. Well, someone found it. And then you find out a 4-star general in charge of most of the army is in a marriage affair that is not illegal outside of the military, but inside the military under Uniform Code of Military Justice, it calls into question your integrity, but even more so, the government doesn't care about your integrity as long as you get the job done in most cases. They actually care about
Hmm.
you being a blackmail subject. People don't think about that. If you say KGB, FSB, MSS, Chinese Ministry of State Security, were to find out this 4-star general is in a marriage affair before the United States government, well, that's great blackmail. That's great blackmail. Then they can blackmail a 4-star general. So he calls into question all these things. And we've seen like technology improve over the last 15 years to the point where government contractors and employees, to include the president, have to have special iPhones. They really can't have Blackberries anymore. That was a big thing. Even the iPhones are custom firmware and they're locked down more than a celebrity would ever get under iPhone's lockdown mode. They'll even have their own nipper and sipper. So nipper is, um, I think it's normal internet protocol, which is like government internet, and sipper is secret internet protocol router, which is secret internet. It's like it's not even connected to normal. Yeah, it's not connected to normal internet servers.
So that's like entering spy territory type technology.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There's we're just going all over the place. I don't know how this is
Hmm.
gonna uh, survive on YouTube, but we're going pretty hard.
Hey, it's clip
The
farming. That's all it is.
there's Jeffrey stuff in a secret, sorry, probably top secret um, skiff for sure, or it's been pulled already by the alphabet agencies. So a skiff is a sensitive, compartmentalized information facility, and usually that's where
Oh, okay.
the top of the top, even secret stuff, but like top secret especially, information will be. And it's compartmentalized on a need to know basis, meaning you're not going to see Air Force experimental military planes that maybe look like UAPs um, at, you know, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, because there isn't any activity there for that. You'd see it more so at Area 51, at
Yeah.
Los Alamos, at White Sands Missile Base, even at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth. Why would you see it at Fort Worth? Because Lockheed Martin is headquartered in Fort Worth on that base. Funnily enough,
Hmm.
the number one sighting of UAPs in the state of Texas is Stephenville, Texas, which just so happens to be about 30 to 50 miles southwest of Joint Reserve Base Fort Worth.
Hmm.
So put
Is
two and two together there.
it? I'm curious. Within the military, is there like an air of unease whenever you talk about Area 51, or like, because I imagine there's got to be some military lore. Like, I mean, outside the military, my view of it is Full Metal Jacket, and that's about as accurate as I can say it's been. But like, is there? I guess how would you describe the culture there? Specifically, I guess on your average day to day, when you're filling out the boring days in between completing a mission and moving to the next, or uh,
Yeah,
whatever
so
that equivalent would be.
that's a great question. The general consensus around sensitive sites like that is we know about the same as a civilian. Honestly, it's that lockdown,
Hmm.
depending on your job and the base. I mean, we see alphabet agency, right? Officers, it's like intel officers in the agency. They don't really call it that, but the agency, right? They don't even know what some of their friends are doing on like the other side of town, maybe, or whatever, because they'd have a different mission. They literally compartmentalize operations to prevent um, leakage, like intelligence leaks and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So even some generals, like the director of the CIA, doesn't know everything. There's operations that director's not privy to and will never find out, which just blows your mind because you're like, that's the director of the CIA. How do they not know what all their people are doing? Because that's the level of secrecy the agency even has among the agent. If you so there is a such I've made this up. It's not a real term, but I've thought about this for years. There could be phantom operations, ghost operations, autopilot operations right now that have been started from decades ago that are just going on almost a like a
Dead
what's the
man switch.
term? Kind of sort of like have you heard of Operation Mockingbird where the CIA was
Never heard of it.
attempting and successfully infiltrated news companies and acted as journalists so they could and like radio broadcasts.
Was this in America?
Yes, yes.
When did this happen? I never heard of this.
70s, yeah, 60s, 70s.
I
Yeah,
believe
there's
it.
a
I
lot.
was
Oh,
reading
so
MK Ultra.
we'll glance over that. Oh yeah, MK Ultra, that's real. I mean, we know about that. Um,
Yeah.
but we have a new version of that right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's called TikTok. It's called Facebook,
Uh,
Instagram, and YouTube to an extent, Reddit especially. Um, so I was get into that. So the human brain can be hacked through social media. We know this, right? It gets us angry,
hmm.
it gets us happy, then it sells us ads after we get angry again. Um, and so if you think you can spot a psyop easily, then you're likely the most suggestible to a psyop. Again, that's from Chase Hughes. So I'm going to briefly cover this. Um, the basic gist is if you want to control a mammalian brain, right? Mammals, we're almost all the same. from dolphins to gorillas to anything with fur, right? We have most of the same hormones. Um, so
Makes
the
sense.
mammalian brain makes all the choices, all the decisions, and it's absolutely in charge, right? If someone says, "Well, no, I'm human. My human brain is bigger. My neocortex is way bigger." The example is okay. Well, then go hold your breath until you die. Try it. You can't. You can't will your way out of holding your breath. So that's the limbic system in the brain overtaking the emotional regulatory part of the brain, and it's in the back of your brainstem. So if you think of it as how do I control a dog, right? It's the same thing that takes control of a human. Same thing for a horse or an animal, any mammal. And there's four things according to Chase Hughes that he says can gain control of a person or a mammal, right? And that's fate. It's called the fate model. Focus, uh, authority, um, tribe, and emotion. So focus, authority, tribe, emotion. If I use those four things, I can control a dog. I can control a dolphin to go through a hoop at SeaWorld. I can control a killer whale. I can control a gorilla to do whatever, within reason. Um, it's the expected response of a tribe that helps. And so you gain focus first, gain control of focus, then you trigger their ancestral response to authority. You trigger their thinking that the tribe is all doing the same thing and that this is what's right. This is their expected response of the tribe. And then you trigger an emotional reaction. And boom, I'm done. I have full control of you, of a human being. So a lot of what psyops are designed to do
Huh.
are most people talk about psyops, but I think brainwashing definitely falls into this influence and persuasion. And it's also part of this that there's things outside of psyops that you're like, is that a psyop? And sometimes they're not intentional, but they're basically a psyop. So it's not like, yeah, it's not like a government conspiracy thing that certainly exists where the government has attempted psyops, but companies do this to sell you more ads and sell you more products. Um, People like
Biased
police
media.
do this. There's a FBI agent who he wasn't getting. He's on YouTube. I'd have to pull him up and find him, but he would stop perps with like, "Stop! This is the FBI," and his voice was extremely high, and he had to be retrained by his peers. They're like, "That's not going to work, man." So you know what the solution was? Easiest solution in the world. You go from "Stop! This is the FBI" to "No, you need to come here right now." Do you hear the difference in tone? Just
I
that
felt
alone
I felt the difference in tone.
triggers.
Oh, that was oh,
Just that alone triggers your fight or flight because most people would raise their voice, say "Stop" instead of "No." Huge difference. That's at the mammalian brainstem level.
that is. I wonder if that's like the closest thing that we have to getting, like reconnected to our human instincts, the ones that have stayed with us throughout evolution.
Yeah, it's
Just
just
it feels
yeah,
like it's hard to get them nowadays, or to get the moments where they act up nowadays.
yeah. It's essentially hacking the human brain. Um, so I'll get more into it right now. So psyops are they typically have an aim of getting a population to become more suggestive and instilling apathy. So um, more suggestibility, more apathy, and destroying outrage. So I need to get, say, I'm performing a psyop. I'd want to, hypothetically, I want to get rid of your anger and get you very apathetic to where you feel like, oh, I can't do anything about this. So high apathy, very low outrage. So I can show you things all day long that make you upset, that make you pissed off. Soon enough, you're going to be like, I can't do this anymore. Here's another thing that's pissing me off. No, I'm just going to flip to the next video. And then usually after something pisses you off, go check on TikTok. It's going to be an advertisement. It's going to be an advertisement. It's either going to be something to sell you on health. So your fear of your body. Oh no, I need this. Right? If I don't have this, something bad could happen. Groupthink. Right? I need these Jordans. I need this. I need this clothing item. Right? I just saw this. You don't even think about it. You just saw a terrible video of like maybe a police shooting or someone being super racist. Flip. The next video will be an advertisement.
We need to talk about how capitalism is eating itself alive right now.
That's the thing too. They've gotten so good. You're not going to beat a gigantic AI system that is self reinforcing and learning. So like the psychologists at these companies, they set it and forget it in some algorithms, and it's self improving. They're like, "Oh, we know this person exactly. They respond to these triggers. They do not respond to these triggers. These triggers have no effect on them, but we wait long enough, they will eventually come back onto the app, even when they have completely changed their feed. Eventually, they will reprogram their own feed. So they will reprogram their new fears, right? Maybe they got over a fear of dogs, but they're going to find that new one because that algorithm is so efficient. It got banned by the United States government. And then the other tech companies had to learn from it. Remember, the government banned TikTok for government employees on their phones, on their government phones. Right? They
Oh,
couldn't tell them what to do at home, but they could tell them, you're not going to have this. And I think they even banned it outright for military, like outright. But there's First Amendment protections and problems with that, I think. So I think they were just saying, like, you can't have it like in a bunch of places and installations because it's collecting so much data. But Facebook, Meta, and YouTube caught on quick, right? Because we have YouTube Shorts now, and we have Facebook Reels. So
hmm.
ByteDance knew what they were doing.
I remember when everyone hated TikTok originally, like back in 2016 when it was still called Musically. Like
Mm,
those times were so much simpler before AI, before generative AI, before COVID.
right.
I remember thinking to myself that the last year I remembered being genuinely carefree was probably 2016, something like that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
like it's only gone downhill from there
Those were
somehow.
the days. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Me too. I
it,
remember 2017 being a good soldier and saying, I'm never having TikTok on my phone. That's from China. I can't trust China.
mm,
Just, but I'll have Facebook on my phone. That's fine.
you sweet summer child. Oh my
And
gosh.
I remember looking at Gary Vaynerchuk, who he's like a podcast bro, crypto, NFT now, but in 17, I remember seeing him on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, and he was telling people, and I was subscribed to him. He's like, get on TikTok. It's he doesn't talk like Trump. He just has like a raspy voice. I'm not trying to sound like Trump. He's like, you got to check out TikTok, bro, because it's going to be the next big thing. And I was like, no, it's not. It's going to get banned. Boy, was I wrong. And so one of my social media regrets was not starting up a TikTok in 17 and like going all in, So
Mm,
it is what it is. So the next step of this whole system of fate is called PDS, and that's pacify, distract, sedate. Okay, in that order.
Okay.
And so this is where I'm going to engineer a culture of loneliness and then offer up all kinds of anesthetics. So you can think of that like video gaming. And, it's okay to video game like adult material, right? Anything where there's
Mm.
like loneliness and people feel the need. We're mammals, we're tribe people still.
If it
We
entertains people, it should be under
Yeah,
that umbrella, right?
yeah. There was a Danish anthropologist, I think, or Dutch. He came up with the term. We're basically Homo ludens now, and that's what Hideo Kojima named his new company. Ludens, the the hominid of gaming, because like the highest aspiration for like modern anthropologists and psychologists and most people now is entertainment, right? Like the highest form of humanity is when we're having fun and playing, right? Enjoying each other's company. But
Mm.
with the PSYOP and with the fate model and PDS, you can hack that. And of course, you're seeing that. So you tell your loved ones as they grow around you that if a product doesn't tell you the problem that they're trying to solve, you need to be terrified of that product. So we see this with like VR goggles. Well, what product are they trying to solve? They don't tell you. Amazon will actually tell you the problem they're trying to solve. We want to get products to you quick. We want to self improve that loop. We want a really good, robust refund policy. Uh, we want you to have choice, and we want you to have a quality product at a affordable price and self improve. Right? Are they perfect? No, but at least Amazon um, .com shopping tells you the problem, right? And they give you the solution.
They seem to cut out the middleman. I mean, I agree. I've just always preferred shopping there, but it
Yeah, shopping's fun.
do you think that like billionaire companies like that, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, I guess in general, do you think that under the guise of capitalism, they can still be beneficial to humanity, like net positive?
They can within reason, like we've seen it in the 1950s, like the actual golden age of America. But that was coupled with post war trauma and extremely high taxes on, you'd argue, they'd argue now, extremely high taxes, but they were not considered exorbitantly high for the upper class and the elite, right? The bracket for taxes was much higher, and then we see a precipitous drop and decline in modern middle class living right after Reagan when he dropped it from the high 90 percentile of income for anyone making over, I believe, $150,000 a year, all the way to 30-20%, 20-30%. Uh, that's a huge drop. So you actually saw federal income
Mm.
plummet because companies were not having to be taxed as much and pay as much. But then the other side of that was companies exploded in growth. But also, people don't realize the dollar was becoming worth less because of Nixon's um, like gold switcheroo from gold backed currency to fiat currency. So we
Mm.
see this now where everything's gotten more expensive. It's 6 times more expensive to buy a home now than it was in the 1980s, but income has barely doubled, right? My mother made more money than I did in some jobs I had the last few years, and that was 25 years ago. That's not
Yeah,
sustainable.
bro. growing up, I mean, I was born in '02. I grew up. I actually didn't experience 9/11, but everything after that, that was my life, and uh, it sucks. This economy. Maybe I mean, like I said, I've been grateful enough to have my parents to have my back during this whole time, and I'll always thank them for that. But the economy is ruthless, and I mean, I don't. Uh, from the last 2 years until 6 months ago, basically, I had been just like nonstop job hunting, whether that was being done remote or I work DoorDash or other rideshare slash work when you want to type jobs, and j- there is almost nothing to like grab onto to climb out of that hole. And the only thing that got me close to getting out of that hole was just accepting the fact I'm gonna have to work at a shitty company and just go from there.
Or
And
work for yourself.
if I was creative, I mean, I've been trying to get my creative juices flowing for the past like 2 years, ever since I had a broken left hand, and not as bad as some other things, but I mean, I got out of my job because I worked at FedEx and I was warehouse stuff, can't lift boxes with fucked up hand, and uh,
I feel
I
that.
mean, that one event, it caused a cascading like series of events that didn't stop until, yeah, 6 months ago.
Yeah. And then
And
this is the only country on earth without universal health care, which is crazy. Even North Korea has universal health care.
yeah,
It might not be great. I mean, I don't know if they say that just to like make the US look bad. They're like, yeah, we have universal health care, but they actually don't. And it's like terrible. They're just like, no, just die. But
uh,
that's what they say. Like Bernie Sanders, we could have had universal health care by now. But look what they did to him twice. 2016, Hillary pushes him out with the help of the DNC. And 2020, Biden pushes him out with the help of the Democratic National Convention, the DNC, again. So at what point do you go, this is a conspiracy from the big business and the elite?
I don't know if I would consider it a conspiracy, but I mean,
Or a
side
cartel?
tangent, but it's still related. I Elon Musk was talking with Joe Rogan on a podcast not too long ago, and I listened in because I want to hear what the richest man in the world has to say.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
he was talking about how end stage capitalism is just communism. You're going to get universal
Yeah.
healthcare because we have a surplus of
Luxury, space communism.
yeah,
Yeah.
space communism. If we can even get that many people out into space, that's still at least a decade or so off. But like,
And the argument is still, uh, as Werner Herzog put in his documentary, the idea that we can just magically have a utopia on a planet.
can you give me 1 second?
Yeah,
I'm
no
being
worries.
interrupted.
I'll say it regardless.
What?
The
Yes. Thank you. Please text me next time. Every time I record something, there is an
that's the no, that's the
increasing
JRE water
chance.
break. That's the JRE water break. Like
Yeah.
Duncan.
I
Duncan's just like, Joe, I need to use the bathroom.
Jesus.
Actually,
Yeah, I mean,
Duncan got Joe to do like his first ever bathroom break in 2020. That was like a
really.
a JRE historic moment. Yeah, I used to be a huge Joe Rogan fan. Uh,
I
I
can tell.
yeah, I'm not so much anymore, but I was definitely Joe Rogan pilled from like 19 to 22, like pre-COVID, then right before COVID, then during COVID especially. Then around 22, I was like, something's not right here. Like, I can still respect the podcast and him as an MMA fighter and like, but uh, you're not a doctor, you're not a teacher, you're not an educator. You definitely think critically, right? I'll give you that. But I just feel like, as with all things you need in life, you need balance. And I feel like around 2021 to now, I haven't watched him in a year or two, like at all, like almost any episode. I just feel like sometimes, like Bill Burr said, when he went off on Joe during COVID, he's like, oh, so easy for you to say, this, that, and the other from the comfort of, your doctor degree. Oh, wait, you don't have one, basically insinuating like you can say all these things, but you're still not a doctor. You're a comedian, MMA fighter.
Yeah, I think that that's true to some degree.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
let me ask you this. Have you ever, when you're on YouTube or TikTok, have you ever seen something where you're the subject matter expert and you go, no, that's absolutely incorrect? This person is talking out of their ass.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
occupation bias.
Yeah. So if you've seen that, people definitely see that on many, many podcasts where they're like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. And also, everyone has an opinion at some point, even if you are the expert and you absolutely know, people are so quick to replace theory with hypothesis, right? You'll see that all the time on conspiracy theories,
Mm,
but we forget, in the realm of science, even in the realm of religion, which there is science in religion, right?
mm,
uh, like masters of divinity, they have to go do archaeological searches and sites, like paleo anthropologists and paleo archaeology, right? On sites and religious like temples and ruins, you have to actually be scientific about it and translate stuff. People have a guess that's your hypothesis and it's backed by evidence. And when you have enough evidence, then that becomes a theory. So we see a lot of this in social media where people go, "Oh, this theory," and I go, "Where's the evidence?" I see this constantly with Asmongold, even Hassan on Twitch. They'll go, "Oh, this definitely happened," but they're not thinking about their cognitive bias, and they're not actually thinking like an investigative journalist or a detective, and going, "That looks really bad,"
mm.
but the context is not there. So where is the evidence? Because you're inferring things. That goes into the psyop as well. Have you
Yeah, I
seen the
mean,
movie Inception?
yeah, I have, yeah.
What's the fastest way in Inception to be able to get someone to change their mind?
Put him in a near-death situation,
Close.
right?
It's actually to suggest and get them to think it's their idea. That's a psyop. If I can, people are so idea averse of others, especially with their ego. Under the pacify, distract, sedate system, it's you're fractionating. It's literally brainwashing hypnosis. You go under, then you come back. You go under, you come back. If you've seen the movie Get Out, you kind of see that scene where the mother, spoiler alert, she puts the uh, male black protagonist under immediately because she has him scared. And she tells him, sleep or drop. Also, she was drinking coffee, I think it was, and she had a spoon. So she has background noise, and she's just
The scraping noise, yeah.
scraping away,
I
and
remember that clip.
that's actually putting your brain in theta wave. So theta waves are
Hmm.
basically 4 to 8
Uh,
hertz, and that's one of the reasons also why binaural beats work so well. You'd have one side uh, in like 4 hertz, and the other side, don't quote me on this, maybe like 8 hertz. And that difference is going to trigger your mammalian response. It's literally biohacking.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about it happening with, people living near wind turbines. The constant low humming of the turbines day and night starts to like drive them a little insane. It's happened with
Oh,
me
yeah.
when I can't
Bitcoin
sleep and
mines?
my computer is on and I have
Uh,
to like I just can't sleep, but it's the loudest thing I can hear and it yeah, it's an interesting subject because it mixes I, I never thought that frequencies were really much of anything, but it's kind of scary how much you can just mess with people sociologically. I'm trying to think of another word or two in that chain, but you know what I mean.
yeah. Well, we saw this during COVID as well. For sure. We saw this as soon as COVID popped off. And also a bit of like the social justice movement as well. I was watching Psy Ops happen in real time and just warning my friends, like, yeah, like social justice is super important. For sure, like do the right thing, like speak truth to power. Be careful when you go to. I kind of stop like my friends, and I try to help in many ways too. But I know for a fact that some of my friends immediately got onto truncated lists. They had an AWACS plane over the Portland and Seattle protests turn riots. And if you know an AWACS plane, that is literally the eye in the sky plane we used in Afghanistan to collect cell phone data. I remember seeing this on Reddit. It was an actual AWACS plane, eye in the sky, with someone had like taken a really zoomed in photo of it, and there was a SIGINT piece of equipment on the undernose of the plane, on the fuselage, and it was a camera system and also a like it collects cell phone data. That was in 2020.
Uh,
So that's why
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
the government has been doing these things for years. But
yeah. Our
going back
our
to
information is not private at all.
no, no. So going back to PDS, we keep doing these tangents, but they're okay. They're good. So you get the loneliness, right? It becomes an anesthetic. Um, like you get Facebook goggles or Apple Vision Pro, or consumerist culture doesn't help either. Um, and then so you're dissatisfied with life. That's step one, right? Of pacify. Pacify, boom. Make them lonely. Get them apathetic, right? Lower outrage, raise apathy, right? Oh, I can't do anything about this kind of thinking, right? It's hopeless. Step two is distract. So with distraction, we're going to engineer, and you always want to pay attention to timing. Is there a politician getting something revealed that needs to happen, or is there an election coming up, or is there a transition of power happening? And then distractions could be something on the news, like say a train derailment in Ohio that leaks gas and crazy stuff, or a politician getting something revealed, uh, and then all of a sudden they get shot in the ear or something. Now, I'm not saying those are conspiracy theories. I'm just saying pay attention to the news, because what you'll often see is a term known as bury the lead, if you've ever heard that, where
Yeah.
the actual important story on the news will be on page 4. And the cover story will be like Kardashians or Kanye does something crazy.
Does that work?
It works perfectly. It happens all the time. So that the news is actually still getting broadcast. It's just everything that is being talked about would be more superficial. Or, oh, another email drops or something crazy from the island. and then all of a sudden, pay attention to the news. You're usually going to see a different scandal so that it takes over the actual news. And sometimes even page four wouldn't even be the lead. It would be somewhere so obscure that's actually like a military operation. We actually saw this with the bunker buster bombs. Trump pulled an actual, what do they call it, hat trick, where he was like, Venezuela, Venezuela. If you go back and you check the news for June this year, you'll see exactly how he did it. He went Venezuela, 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 psych, and they had already sent the bombers to the Persian Gulf and then struck Iran with those bunker buster bombs. That's why I would not be surprised if something happened in the Middle East when he's over here focusing on Venezuela. It's actually sleight of hand, and then something happens actually in the Middle East. He did this in 2020 with Soleimani when he struck General Soleimani.
Mm, I don't know how I feel about describing that. I don't know, calling that a hat trick.
I guess hat trick. It's more of
It's a bit
less
morbid,
of
but yeah.
yeah. It's the soccer term, I think, or uh,
I think it's a
jo-
no, yeah, it's soccer. It's soccer.
yeah. That might not be the right term, but you get what I'm saying. It's a sleight of hand, right? It's still like, oh, look at this over here, like a magician. Psych,
Mhm.
here's an attack over here. It's like one of the oldest tricks in the book. Sun Tzu, Art of War, right?
Misdirection.
Misdirection.
I
So
can't wait to
going,
read that.
we got distractions, and then, or like the drones in New Jersey. That was a big thing. So all this other stuff, maybe a famous and terrible actor does something or a good actor, it's you're going to bury the lead. So, and then everyone's overflowing with information, so they become sedated. So then you work on to um, part two of that, which is basically you fall under hypnosis, like we talked about, but it's fractionation. So fractionation is where I take your emotions way up, like we talked about. Then I pull your emotions back down. I take you in a high state of emotion. Then I bring you back down again. And every time I bring you down, you actually get more suggestible. You can think of this in terms of if you look over the last year, our society had these little high points, right? And then the lows. And every high and low gets a little bit higher and a little bit lower than the last low. The more important thing are the lows. So you become more suggestible and more suggestible and more compliant. And this has been demonstrated in study after study after study, according to like Ivy League universities, um, university studies. Chase has done all the homework. He's a brainwashing expert of over 20 years.
Do you think that there's a way out of this mass hypnosis for the vast majority of people? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I myself have fallen for it every now and then, but like, it's
Yeah, well, we're all susceptible to it, you know.
mm,
Even Chase, even people inside the system, where we can see proverbially how the sausage is made. Like I'm not immune to it. He's definitely not immune to it. He talked on his podcast. He bought Air Jordans. He like showed them. He's like, I bought these on Instagram. I'm not immune to it. And the guests all laughed. So it works. It's just when you become more aware of how the system is made and how it's made, you become more resistant to like the deep negative side effects of it. Does that make sense?
yeah. I've heard it said recently that it's something is the new punk. Is it being woke is the new punk or something? And because that means that you're fighting back against like the government or at least the conservative government. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I love Cat Williams' quote on it. He's like, "You're not going to call me asleep. He's like, I don't understand people's hatred of the word woke because the opposite of woke is asleep. So you're gonna tell me you're asleep? It's true. Like you, that he's arguing like all these because again, this is tribe, this is fate, right? Fear, authority, tribe, emotion. Under
Mm,
tribe, they took that psyop worked. The rights, and we could talk left and right all day because they both do it. But on the right side, right, tribe said for groupthink, woke is a bad word, not realizing the definition is you're awake. You have opened your eyes to a revelation. It's the cognitive dissonance is real, but it exists on the left side as well.
yeah.
It definitely does. It exists. We've seen it, right? Um, so it's like once you understand fate, that model, by the time you get to tribe and people are like, we should do this really dumb thing because you can see the model working in real time, you're like, actually, no, I'm not doing that. That's really dumb. And here's why.
Hmm. Do you how long have you spent having this kind of mentality towards, I guess, just the government in general, or is it just specifically the U.S. government? Like, what was there an event that you think flipped the switch for you?
9/11.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% 9/11. And it was a terrible day. Like I remember it vividly. It's like Pearl Harbor, you're not going to forget that, especially when you see it on the news. But even prior to that, I grew up in a very religious home. And I remember this wasn't the spark that lit that like I don't trust anything movement, but it was maybe the precursor where the gas was being released before the spark ignites the fire in my brain, right? So maybe a gas leak was Y2K. The Y2K scare. We were in church and people were freaking out before New Year's Eve. We would go to church and people were praying. You can look this up. This was like a national thing. People legitimately thought the end of the world might be on New Year's 2000 because of the computer code.
In retrospect, it's one of the funniest facts in human history.
Also, that's a pretty big deal having a new millennium, you know.
Yeah.
That'd be like it's 999. Um People are getting ready for the year 1000. What did they do 1,000 years ago? They probably
Oh
did the
yeah,
same thing
we've not been here before.
in
What do
the
we
in the
call it?
middle. Yeah, in the what is it? The medieval times, in the
Oh yeah.
in
Jeez.
the dark ages, it's the year 999. People are freaking out. They're probably thought the end of the world was right around the corner then too, you know.
Oh, they weren't being hassled by the plague around then, but you win
Yeah.
some, you lose some.
Yeah. Yeah. So we
No.
let's okay, so we have the highs and the lows. Um
Mhm.
on the lows, you get more suggestible, you get more compliant, so you will blindly follow the tribe. Like the easy example, uh saying, "Oh, this group is bad because of this, because I saw this video, and this group has no morals," despite not taking nuance into situation and not generalizing a whole group of people. Right? If
Yeah.
if under
Uh,
inception, if you're able to get this piece close enough to this piece, but not say the racist thing or not say the hateful thing or not say it, I didn't do it for you. You did it. You finished the piece in your head. That thought becomes so much stronger and reinforced in your brain. I didn't get you to think those things. You thought those things.
dude, oh Jesus, I'm realizing that. Yeah, I think I've had some of that conditioning for like a decent bit of my life, and I can recognize on a day-to-day basis that like it's it's an intrusive thought. It's not something that I like want to think about, but it's been hard coded into me.
Yeah.
And
Everyone does this, right? I will
yeah,
it this holier than thou, I can do no wrong isn't true. Everyone has bias. And it's when we realize we have bias that we can get more agency over it and educate yourself and learn your what are my biases.
mhm,
It helps. It does make you a better person when you learn that. So with this engineered suggestibility on sedate, right? Pacify, distract, sedate, the last part of that. We're constantly, right, on a psyop, it's going to constantly bombard emotional regulation, right? So in hypnosis, I would put you into a trance, wake you
mhm,
up just very briefly. When I wake you up, I might say in that moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. Your awareness of the room is coming back. This is straight from Chase Hughes, by the way. But it's also true in that I've seen this, and I've actually we could talk about that later. But I've done hypnosis, and I've hypnotized people before, usually for therapy or like help.
mhm,
But it does work. People want to think it's woo woo, but it's real. And hypnotherapy is a real thing. So uh, you say in a moment, I'll count from 1 to 5. Your awareness of the room is coming back. You're more aware of the sound of my voice. You're finally back in this chair here, just aware of the weight of your body, waking up just enough to open your eyes. Now, open your eyes. Great. And sleep all the way back down again. And they'll drop. They'll go back into a trance. You've got them very calm, and then you've activated their fight or flight, usually with a snap, or because they've been listening to the programming or pre-programming so long, it's a Pavlovian response almost, right? People don't realize this.
yeah,
The highly suggestible people, it's because they're creative. Even if you're not as creative or you're like fighting uh, hypnosis or fighting social media algorithm, it works over time. So you'll start to see the change over time. It might not work on the first scroll. It will definitely work on the 100th scroll.
it's a war of attrition, and humans are limited by time, while technology, for the most part, doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, yeah. Technology, it's still going to be there. It's 200,000 years of most recent evolution that we haven't really evolved quickly enough
Mm,
versus a multi-trillion-dollar AI algorithm. What wins? you know, the machine. Uh, but there's ways around it. I'll get into that. I'll get into that. So we will do this little up and down, partially wake you up. And every time you go into hypnosis again, you're going way deeper, which means it's extremely effective when you're trying to help someone, right? When you're trying to help someone. But we see how it can't in some situations. So two things are happening in that state. Number one, your brain is going into the theta wave we talked about, 4 to 8 hertz of neural
okay.
oscillations, or what they call brain waves outside of neuroscience. And the second thing that's happening is every time your brain goes through this, it's going into a hypnotic state, and it's real hypnosis. The brain becomes flooded with this neurotransmitter called GABA, which is a gamma aminobutyric acid. Um, they put it in nootropics as well, I believe, and it's the brain's number one inhibitory neurotransmitter. So it's like um, Chase said, it's like the resident assistant in college that's walking around telling everyone to turn the music down. So it's a calming sort of
Oh,
effect hormone in the brain. And then GABA is the mammalian safety chemical. It makes us feel safe. So that's basically all hypnosis is. It's GABA um, is the safety chemical, and then the brainwave state increasing your levels of GABA. And he said there's more stuff like HVA, homovanillic acid, you'd see a leveled spike if you took CSF out of someone and did like a study. That's a very invasive study, but that's pretty much it.
And I've heard of some wild studies, and it's the U.S. government. They'll do what they want regardless.
Yeah, like
It's
MK Ultra with LSD.
well, yeah. Well,
Like, oh,
could
we were
you
talking
could
about
you?
Black Ops with that. The story of Black Ops 1, he's stuck in a chair
Oh,
getting MK Ultra'd.
yeah.
And we have reports now. This is getting this. I don't think this podcast is, it's going to get, we're going to fight the system. All right. So the podcast will you do what you got to do. Predictive history is a Yale educated Chinese professor who teaches in Shanghai or Beijing, but also at Toronto, I believe, Toronto University, or in public schooling, I think, or actually private schooling. He's phenomenal as a YouTuber, but he talks about Gitmo, so Guantanamo Bay. And if you, this is for you and your audience to look up. If you look up, what's his name? I have his name here. It's Abi Zubaydah, Abyzubaydah. Or I'm sorry, Abu Zubaydah, ABU. I'll put it in chat.
So
Google
what?
his name or Google drawings.
Okay,
You will
interesting.
see what they did to him at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And by they, I mean the CIA. And they still have him in detention. He was like the
He's still
younger,
there to this day.
yeah, he's like related to Mohammed Sheikh Mohammed, one of the masterminds of 9/11. They basically that they
God damn.
yeah, that's why I'm like, when you find this stuff out as a army veteran, you you go from like wearing your army hat everywhere in Texas to like, I don't want to wear this hat anymore. Not because I'm not proud of my own service, because I am. I did great things. I have Afghan friends, but you're like, it feels so off for me to wear this hat and like fly my flag. I don't care what people think. Like, I still love the country, but I want the country to do better. That's a normal human response. Pulled apart away from the tribe, because the tribe says it's like Helldivers too, right? You better love your country. You better love it.
For
But then,
democracy.
yeah, like even Starship Troopers, like you see like the propaganda. You're like, this is crazy amounts of propaganda. Like, I can love my country and still request, don't demand that it does better, right? That's being a patriot.
Hmm. Yeah. This this country was founded on such important morals, which have been muddied. I would say just by the fact that we've been learning as much as we have been about things, and that some things are good, some things are bad, and somehow we still haven't been able to come to a consensus. Like, uh, and it leads back to the capitalism argument. We're watching the Ouroboros eat its own tail,
Yeah.
and we're all inside of its stomach unless maybe one of us can get maybe something sharp
We got to give
some
it
time
diarrhea.
to get a way out.
we
Yeah, it won't eat
we got
itself
to
to
get it
death or
sick.
nothing, that's for sure.
I think that's
If we poke a
actually,
hole in it,
what is the quote from Agent Smith? Like humanity is a
What I just said?
virus. Humanity, when he's like telling Neo, he's like, humanity is a virus. Um, but if you think about it, the only way society gets better, apart from like that weird quote, is you need antibodies on a system that's sick. What are the antibodies? Where's the accountability? Where's the T cells, the killer T cells, the helper cells that clean out the system?
Do you think that America is still going to be America by the end of Trump's presidency, second term?
I have to stay optimistic.
What would the realist in you say?
The realist slash pessimist would say we may be in pre Russia territory. So Soviet Union territory right before the fractionation.
Oh,
The optimist in me says we will fix this. Personally, I have a exit plan, and I'm not the first former military to say that. Even like celebrities, they're like getting dual citizenship right now, which is kind of scary. I think the the best case scenario is everyone gets along and the economy does amazing. The worst case scenario is I can't even say it on YouTube, probably. Um,
you want me to censor it?
no, no,
Remove
it's
post?
honestly soft civil war would be the actual event, a soft civil war. Then hopefully not like a hard civil war. If you read the fourth turning, don't. I mean, you can, but the guy did his research. He was on Joe Rogan. He talks about the
Oh,
Civil War. He times events and economic events, political and then economic. And he said there's a convergence happening in like a few years to where the economic event that's rare and the political event that's rare are going to converge. And the last time that happened was 1860 to 1865, the American Civil War. Yeah. So, but I will say that what might happen is like a soft power issue and then like soft fractionation to where you'd see states picking sides and starting with trade. People don't realize trade is economic warfare. So when you start to see tariffs, that's step one of a real war. When you actually see like we don't want to trade with you, we don't want to communicate, that's a form of communication. We don't want to have reciprocity. We don't want to trade in the open market on our goods. We don't think it's fair. And both countries might have their real valid reasons, right? Like we see with superpowers. That's step one for most economists and geopolitical strategists. And then it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. So it, I can't speak for what the government's doing right now, but they're definitely committing PDS, pacify, distract, sedate, albeit terribly at times.
yeah, dude. I get off of work at like 8 p.m. and the whole news cycle is already gone. It's over by the end of the day. And I can watch like people's reaction to the fact that they didn't even correctly redact the files, and then people upload what they are 5 hours later, and then another 5 hours later, it's like, oh no, we'll just release more later. There's more. We just didn't tell you about it because yeah,
Yeah, there's going to be more too. There's going to be a lot more. The
I
the thing about this is, people don't realize it just takes one leaker, and there's several. There's several.
there's
So
hundreds, thousands, I'd say. Have you? I mean, I know a bunch of, or I've just seen a bunch of YouTubers that I would watch back in the day, and they're making videos on the Epstein files. If only a few of the people that I watched are doing that nowadays, and it is quite literally easier than ever to get into getting information out there. It's only a matter of time. It's a
Yeah.
progressive society that's fighting. No, it's the other way around. It is a conservatist government based on greed, more or less, and human sin as opposed to compassion
Yeah.
and wanting to
But
actually
just,
make things better.
I'll say, just remember the fake model and PDS, because if it's just think, I'm not saying think of everything in a conspiracy, but I am saying be cognizant, be wise. And if you have to wonder if this is the front page constantly, what's happening in the background? If Jeffrey if this is being allowed even to just be so terribly open and like terrible damage control and PR, what is happening in the background? And we know that. We see that with Palantir AI systems, the same similar systems of biometric identification we conducted in Afghanistan is now heading home in the US. And while we lambasted China the last 5 to 10 years on, oh, look at their camera police state. They have cameras everywhere. We have the same thing now. Flock cameras. You know, the police now, as of 2025, when they pull you
They have
over
access.
with Palantir, they have your bank account statements now. They can see how much money is in your bank account thanks to Palantir. What are the
Yeah,
implications
I
for
know.
that?
Yeah.
That's almost a legal loop around the Fourth Amendment right to search and seizure. Your rights under the Fourth Amendment, because they know how much money you have. They can just assume the worst. Like, hey, what were you doing? Why were you doing this? We
They
pulled you over
can
for a
let their
speeding ticket.
biases take over in that
What?
situation because I think
Yeah. What were you doing at this
when
store? This specific store?
I think maybe it's a good thing that the internet is growing as much as it is because that also means that we're in a position where we can try to educate people as much as we can. I mean, of course, some people just aren't going to listen to you. That's the internet, that's life, that's the human condition. And you may never think exactly like someone else does, like bar for bar, but you can sure try your fucking hardest to convince them and show them that, hey, I think I'm a reasonable person. Here's the facts I saw. What do you think? Like, I think that we should be. It's worth giving everyone a second chance, given they've not done anything too severe. Like, that's why
Yeah,
I'm the person that always tries to play devil's advocate because it happened for a reason. They had a line of reasoning that got them to where they are today.
yeah,
There's got to be something more to that. Why did this happen? How can we prevent it in the future?
yeah. I mean, I
And
personally, I believe in a divine creator, a higher being, and I think that love always wins. Like love is truly, it's so cliche, but it is the universal conscious collective that will always win over fear. And the more people that wake up with love, the less fear we have in society. Things will get better, but it does take action. And there's truth to power.
mhm.
There's truth to saying things out loud, right? I'm a parent. There's truth to me, like being a good father, being a good parent, saying affirmative things, but also helping my young daughter think critically and then giving her real, true love. That's a currency that has an endless price, right? I think that's our way out of this is learning, loving, leading.
I don't. I think uh, it's interesting to me that the term unconditional love is almost common sense at this point. And
Yeah,
it feels like society in general, ever since the dawn of humanity, has been on a slider bar. Like they're on a point on a tightrope. And on the two ends of the tightrope, you have compassion and you have, I guess, sin. I guess I'd base it to sin.
Yeah.
And
Missing the
it's just a
mark,
constant tug
right?
of war.
I think Greek and the Bible, sin is translated as missing the mark. It's an archery term. So, like, you're supposed to be here,
Huh.
God, Jesus, whatever, Buddha, the Sophia for the agnostics, whatever it is, you're supposed to be here on love, but you're like way off course. You're over here in fear. And how can you love yourself or someone else if you you have there's fear in that God-shaped hole? So people want to say, I don't believe in God. Okay, but you believe in science. That's your God. That's your religion, right? And in anthropology, we learned that religion is not tied to like a church or a temple. It's tied
Right.
to your cultural patterns that you repeat, your rituals. Sports
It,
is a religion,
yeah, fancy
right?
name for a belief system. I've
Video
always believed
game
that
groups.
everyone has their yeah, their groups that they're with, whether it's your Discord server or your church down the street, or maybe it's just like a waitress at a restaurant that you frequent, something like that.
Oh
It
yeah,
is the little bits of community that we can foster in, I would say, these terribly interesting times because we're here whether we like it or not, and we've been dealt a pretty shit hand. 7-2 of hearts.
it's
There's
true.
only so
But
much we can do, but we can at least try to do something and hope we go
yeah,
all in before we go broke.
the optimist in me too. When you said we've been dealt a shit hand, it does remind me like things are not ideal right now, but for most of the world, like the overwhelming majority, this is the best time they've ever been in. Like we have to that part of me is still alive. Like yeah, things are very unequal, right? The inequality is off the charts. But like people, some of the boomers, the cringe boomers, will say, "Oh well, um, you live better than kings of 1,000 years ago." That's true. That's arguably true. Like we have penicillin, but
Yeah.
also, um, I remember like talking to my neighbors and friends that I would drink with, and recreationally have fun, and we talked about the time machine. And my neighbors are black, and I was like, we really can't, like, if you're not cisgender white, you cannot go back in time, really, in most of the world, in a time machine. Like, this is the best time you live in, generally. Because every other time before this, you'd have a mountain of prejudice or like systemic injustice if you weren't male or cisgender Caucasian. So
I I was born well I was a cis male white. I've always been a Texan. And I knew I had it lucky in that sense. Yeah, when you say like when you go back in history, it only gets worse over time for
basically,
every marginalized group.
but even the groups in power or the more privileged groups, so to speak, you didn't have the medicine we have now or the cancer treatments. Uh, is there a sweet spot? Yeah, everyone says it's the 90s, apparently, right? Even the Matrix was like, it
80s,
was the
yeah.
90s. There might be some merit to that, but this is the hand we're dealt, and you got to keep playing the game, baby, like Texas Hold'em or something. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold
Yeah,
them.
we don't
Pick
know
your
if we
battles.
can get more money from the bank after the fact, and we'll figure that out when we get there, and we're gonna have a good run while we're still here. It
Amen.
yeah, it's all about perspective, and like when you were talking about before how easily it is to sway people's opinions on something, it people are just content with, or it seems like an overwhelming amount of people are content with the bare minimum. And I think that that kind of goes against the whole point of progressivism. And if you're not like, I
It might not
what do you
also
think?
be
Like,
like bare minimum. I think maybe it might be part of that pacification, the pacify approach, where
yeah,
the
where they don't think
hopelessness,
about what their decisions actually mean and what it would imply they think about other things. They don't.
how much is their vote
It
worth? How much how much is
exactly.
their vote worth? How much is their action worth? People don't realize they're incredibly powerful. The power is literally in people.
The
In a
power
group,
is in hope.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's that's why I I don't know if you were there for that, but we were in VR chat. We were just listening to one of the break worlds, and we started talking about how well, yeah, we live in a shit era. I like to call it the Roaring Twenties, Electric Boogaloo, and
Electric boot.
it. I mean, like, dude, I graduated when COVID hit. I never got a homecoming dance or anything like that. Like, there are some things in life that I will never get to do, period. And I'm slightly annoyed by that, but I also know that there's no point trying to fight it, at least in the sense of fighting it being a part of your history. But I think
Right.
that because these things are happening and because there are still things in life to care about, even if you didn't get to go to homecoming, or maybe your dog died in 2021 and you were going through it mentally. Time
Yeah.
still passes. There's tomorrow is always a new day. And the only time it isn't is when we die. And that happens to everyone at different times. So that's like, I guess it does imply you got to come to terms with just mortality and stuff like that. But that's a whole different conversation. Point being, there is merit and value in being the hope that you want to see for the world, whether that's just wearing a Christmas hat while doing delivery driving uh, on the week of Christmas, or maybe it's just like having a happy sounding song on super low volume on your phone while you're just sitting on the bus. Maybe people hear you, maybe they don't, but it's aura maxing, I guess.
Yeah. Or amazing. I
Stuff
agree
like
with that. Like
that.
small victories can lead
Yeah.
to epic battles won. And
It
then the war.
snowballs your momentum, or it snowballs your motivation,
Yeah.
especially I can feel this happening in real time as I've started rolling the snowball of this podcast and getting my things set up, the different kind of topics I want to talk about, people I want to talk to, etc., etc. And I've always been the type of person that will give people a second chance, and it's like teaching a baby how to walk. Though
Yeah.
some because we were born into a shit era, we have to do our best to educate those who come next. Because while we may not have been the luckiest, we can do our damnedest to make sure that hey, at least the next guy's got even 10% better standards than we do. It's why I've
Wow.
wanted to become a teacher. It's why I've studied human development, sociology, international studies. I mean, I studied abroad in Japan. There was no one judging me over there for who I was or what I did because I was just a tall white foreigner dude. They're like, okay, he's gonna do foreigner things. It it's okay to just be yourself, and there's I wish that there was some kind of formula to help someone get rid of their social anxiety. I've been trying to do that for myself basically since COVID, and I mean, it's gotten me this far, and I'm arguably at my peak right now, and I think it's only gonna get higher. Like,
Yeah, I would
I don't
say,
know.
and I preface this saying thank you for having me on this podcast. This has
Oh,
been so much fun. Um, it's a little nerve wracking, but I think we got our icebreakers out of the way. I will
yeah,
say
me
that,
too.
yeah, I will say that for the anxiety portion, the old cliche and adage, like, oh, just expose yourself to like public speaking, that is all fine and dandy unless you like actually have panic attacks from public speaking. Because
Yeah.
under the fate model, people have such an aversion to social injury on the group thing. And so social media is so great at creating that social injury. Oh, if you say something wrong, we're going to crucify you on YouTube. You're going to be the most famous person on TikTok at a Coldplay concert, right? Regardless of what you were doing, good or bad. Or
Yeah.
if you say anything dumb, uh, we're, and I think that's something that the left has definitely been lambasted for. Like, people say, ain't no hate like Christian love, right? But there's also the other
Yeah.
saying, like, the left cannibalizes their own. The left eats their own. Oh, if you make a mistake on the left, you're done. You're gone. Canceled, right? Cancel
Both
culture
sides
times.
suck in their own
Yeah.
special way.
But I will say that under the fate model and what Chase Hughes has talked about a lot, and I've seen it and it works, is you would want to change your own behavior, like subliminally. So if you want to practice public speaking, there is a sort of costume change you'd need to do, and it would subliminally change you. If you want to be more confident, he talks about raising your rear view mirror in your car. What is that going to do? If you raise your rear view mirror, you're going to be forced to sit up straight and look higher. Little subconscious fine tuning like that goes a long way. If you, and I have an example of this with one of my amazing army friends and veterans, she survived a bomb blast in Afghanistan. She's an amputee, and she's one of my heroes. Like, she was just a go getter. But before we deployed, and before she went on her own second deployment, I believe, she had this written affirmation on the wall. And it was like, I'm a boss, badass bitch, and no one can tell me what to F and do, and this, that, the other. Every time she left her barracks room, she would slap that, right? But I didn't realize at the time, it's not the affirmation that is working in your brain, it's the daily constant reminder. It's like you do a superhero costume change. So, one of the most powerful things for people with PTSD, especially police, uh, uh, trauma survivors, um, anything, is you remove that old piece of clothing. And so I had to be taught that in the military after losing soldiers, by my commander. He was CID, which is Military Police Criminal Investigative Division. So he would see people die on deployment in terrible ways. They have to investigate that. And he said, G, um, you need to do a costume change when you get home because you've been through a lot. You've been through trauma, you've seen people die. When you get home after a really hard day at on the base, on the army base, immediately change your uniform. I'm like, what? That's so dumb. That's not going to work. It did work. It worked because psychologically, I'm going from soldier back to normal citizen. civilian. I mean, I followed it religiously after losing a soldier because it was just really tough. The therapy didn't work as well as that costume change did. Something to think about there. So we have personas, we have we wear these masks, but then deep down inside we feel that we're truly something else and someone else. And people do these costume changes and change into who they truly want to be, right? At a certain point, I didn't want to be a soldier anymore. That's the case for a lot of soldiers. Uh, it comes and goes a lot too. You can have bad years in your career, right? Or bad years as a student or whatever. But overall, you like went on that journey for a reason. And so it's really important to remember and ground yourself. Look at how far you've come. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've accomplished. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters, like, I mean, I guess it does matter what you're doing, but the why is always going to be an obstacle. Why did you do this? Why? As opposed to like stay grounded in the present and, focus on making the world a better place, you know, one moment at a time in the present.
That's been my outlook on things. Yeah. It is such a it's such a lonely road.
Yeah, but it is and it isn't. You're, it's lonely individually. I'll say, I'll admit, I got really emotional before this podcast because I was like, I was hyping myself up and I was getting a little nervous. And then I was getting into it. I was like, no, this podcast would be great. And then the trauma tried to seep back in of like what I've been through. And then as soon as the trauma set, because I was learning fate, I was like, no, no. You look, and I reminded myself, like, look at how far I've come. Look at all the stuff I've been through. I'm not alone. I might be alone physically right now in this space, but there's billions of other people going through their own stories. And I have family that loves me and they've been through their own special little journeys. And we just got to have each other's backs, just like we did in the military. We're the human race. We're one big race, one big tribe, you know?
The story of the human race, whenever it does finish, the story from the beginning of human societal evolution all the way through our destruction is going to be how one person's kindness was able to overcome nature and the fact of you technically don't matter to the universe, but you matter to us. It's about
Yeah.
community.
Amen.
It always comes down to that. Whether, like, you can summarize any story down to the base idea of we want our situation to go back to the way it was. To the way it was. And not thinking about how the past is the past and maybe we should help the future. Like,
Yeah. Do
I don't
something
know.
that,
It's weird.
do something that, you know, 2026 you is going to thank you for in the future. Like that, I have to reframe my mind a lot into that. Like, do something right now that future you is going to thank and be like, thanks. I appreciate you. And I still do. There's some things I definitely am like, why did I do that back then? Now I'm in this position. But for the most part, I'm like, yeah, good on you. You know.
Yeah, I try to. I think whenever I started implementing that mentality into my just day to day, especially when it comes to organizing things and, trying to make sure I'm not slowly poisoning myself by like snacking all the time, like taking care of yourself feels good, believe it or not. It's crazy, but
Oh yeah. And again, people will not change their behavior unless they want to, but there's tremendous power and agency in learning the process. People don't stop smoking because it feels good. It feels terrible to stop smoking. People stop smoking when they learn about lung cancer, when they learn about the consequences in depth and detail, when they learn how the sausage is made.
that's why we gotta do our best to educate who we can, wherever we can. I really do believe that everyone, even the worst of people, has the opportunity to learn and potentially live a slightly better life, even in the smallest way, if it means that maybe they put some good into the world. Whether it's as simple as posting a podcast or like a TikTok when you're in the depths of it mentally. And I remember doing this so often in 2021. I was I was in my loner era basically, and yeah,
Do you post and ghost like Joe says? It's hard for me. I'll be
post.
like, oh, I can't send this video or I can't send this. And then I remember, like, just do it. Like
Yeah, I'm
Shia
scared.
LaBeouf, just do it. If
Don't
you
let your
remember that
dreams
meme.
be dreams.
Yeah.
It's
Post and ghost. Who cares? I've posted things that
that.
I'm
Yeah.
like, this is not going to take off. This is such a loser video of mine. Takes off immediately. And then I posted things like, this is a banger. Like this is a ball. Like this is going to be so popular. No one sees it.
Yeah,
So
I
you
mean,
just
think
have
of
to
it
put it
this
out there.
way. You're gambling, and I mean, hey, there is a chance that a crazy popular YouTuber could pick it up and it fucking explodes. That is best case scenario, but 95% chance you're probably gonna get no more than 100 views on your first 50 videos.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, I'm just trying to be harsh because, yeah, worst case scenario. But going into content creation from the perspective that I have, having just like, I mean, I don't have to worry as much about financial stuff anymore. I can worry about making the quality on my content and the things I talk about and what I say to people. I can focus on making that what people see because I mean, I really do think that it is more important now than ever, and I don't know if that importance will ever go away. But you gotta do what you can.
Yeah. I think
Be the hope.
oh yeah. Oh, I think to add to that, you said I don't know if it will ever go away. I think it's coming back. The age of authenticity. We're seeing that. People are getting
Believe it or
so
not,
AI slop averse. They're like, I don't care. I want something real. I need real people. I want real art. I don't care if it looks worse technically than like this polished, chiseled, stable diffusion video or Nano Banana Pro or uh,
yeah.
what is it? Dolly ChatGPT image. Like, I like this. It's real. It was done by human hands and a human brain. I'm just seeing that trend. People want the real now. They're going back to
Mm-hmm.
like I have a record player in here. I'm collecting vinyls again. People are like collecting like old school stuff because they're like, it's physical, it's real. No one can take
Yeah.
this from me.
My partner got a VHS player, and we've watched a bunch of older movies like Alien, Star Wars,
Oh,
just on that.
so good.
Because yeah, physical media, when everything's being digitized, I mean, thankfully, nothing beyond the extent of NFTs, but like, you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
we can't lose that, especially when we have already lost a portion of our culture and what made us us due to greedy companies and shit like that, and them robbing us of what could have been. And we need to be able to do what we can in our own ways, and I'd say ideally a way that doesn't spend as much money as possible to not fuel the capitalist machine. But neither here nor there.
Yeah, and then we'll get what luxuries, luxury automated space communism, allegedly. But if you, again, the
Yeah.
argument from Werner Herzog, like I said, was you watch the documentary. It's damning. It's like if he was an educator, a professor, or someone like really high up intellectually, is like, if you're not willing to fix the planet that we're on right now, but you want to spend like 50 times the GDP, which is like currently impossible on a planet, millions of kilometers away, as opposed to like even the moon. Why would you do that? You haven't done you bear the fruit, right? Like the Bible says, you'll know them by their fruit. If your fruit is so shitty here on planet Earth, like the one planet we know works and we need to preserve it, why would you do that on Mars? You're going to terraform the entire planet. That doesn't make sense. It's like do it now.
Why have we not banned oil companies yet? Why are they still? Oh, actually, I know why. It's because they're paying Congress.
Yeah. We actually do in the current infrastructure, especially like I said, I was a power grid operator in the army for 10 years. You need fossil fuels. So like all of the geopolitical experts are saying it's not like oil electricity. Like you switch immediately. You need like a smooth transition period. And the exact analogy we can see in the government right now is what the left and right were arguing over the Affordable Care Act. Like, I did a report on this at university recently. The Democrats, I'm playing devil's advocate, so I'm not saying this is truth. I'm saying what the parties are arguing. The Republicans are saying, you know, well, we can't keep subsidizing the healthcare industry. Every year that you give, the government back, excuse me, the government says, uh, oh, we'll give you billions of dollars, healthcare industry, just take care of our citizens. Well, every year that do that, the healthcare industry is just going to charge higher premiums year after year, sucking the proverbial teat off of the cash cow, i.e., the US government, the bank, and not even the central bank, just the government. And then the Democrats are
Currently
arguing,
billions in debt.
yeah, the Democrats argued, well, you can't just pull the rug out of the system. Like you're going to cause immediate famine and like people dying of cancer, like people getting, we saw in the news, being denied surgeries 4 hours before the actual surgery. Like you can't pull the rug out. So the balance in the middle, right? The common sense would be a smooth transition period to a better healthcare system. But they're so
Mhm.
stuck in their tribe, right? Fate, authority, tribe, emotion. They're so stuck in that Ouroboros loop, they can't get out of it because they're in that fear loop, that doom loop. So I think it's our job as leaders, as educators, as right, like I said, uh, lovers. Like we love people. Like I love my family, right? You have your tribe, you have your group, and it's okay to
I love my
extend that
friends.
group.
Yeah.
It's okay to extend that group. That if you tell people like, hey, respectfully, I think this is a blind spot that you have, but you do it in the way that doesn't enable more cognitive dissonance. You give people the tools, their pieces, like Inception. You say, "Isn't this interesting over here? Like, look at this.
Show
This
me
is
the
kind of like
light.
this other situation here." on the opposite side, isn't it? Or you say, this reminds me of this. Leave it at that. People will fill in the gaps. They'll be like, oh, hey, you're right. That politician did say that one thing, but that's like not true. That's like hypocrisy. Just like this politician or this CEO or even this teacher or bully that bullied me. And they start taking back their agency. They start gaining control back of their trauma. You know, it's not my fault.
Yeah,
Or
there's not
it
enough
is my fault. Balance, like accountability. Accountability is important too.
accountability, responsibility, anything that requires you to, anything that influences your own agency is a good thing in my mind. Specifically because, I mean, like I said before, I think that there's just too many people kind of trapped in the day to day and stuck, on scrolling on TikTok and not really having much agency over the day. And I know that that's entirely because they've not had the opportunity to. That's where I was over the last 2 years, and that's, like I said, that took a year and a half just on my own terms to get out of. And besides being trans, I was basically a cis white dude. I still use my dead name whenever I'm doing work stuff because I've not. I mean, it's just not worth that risk. That's like kneecapping yourself when you're already missing a
Playing on hard
leg.
mode, like South Park.
Yeah, insane. And
Oh,
it's
we had a.
yeah.
Oh, I hope she watches this. I had a soldier who I love dearly. Black, gay, lesbian, right? And I would joke, I'd be like, the only way you could make this worse and like harder for yourself is if you were Muslim in the army. I was like, you be gay, black, Muslim, maybe just trans at this point, like just go in hard mode, like we would joke like that in the military, darker humor, literally.
No, I think it's pretty
She was
funny.
like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Like this is because we would talk and we would see the biases roll up and we all had it, like I would be treated better by I remember like a first sergeant would treat me better just because he was Puerto Rican like me. It made me feel so bad and like watered down, like I get away with a few things that like my colleagues don't because my first sergeant is like kind of being racist right now, like he has that bias. He was so blunt about it. Not gonna name him, but
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember. I think if I wanted people to have a takeaway from this podcast, I want it to be this: it is not bad to think about why you think the way you think. It's okay to question yourself and to adjust your trajectory because things are always changing. That is the constant of the universe, isn't it? Like our lives are always changing, our circumstances, our social relationships, our opportunities, our goals, our dreams, our fears, and everything in between. And as cheesy as it sounds, the sun rising in the morning is kind of the reason I keep going. It's because time isn't ever going to stop. You can maybe, skip a bit of it by sleeping or whatever, and yeah, that's cool, but things happen and those things have consequences. And if you have the ability to influence those things in any way, shape, or form, whether that be saying hi to the bus driver or Christmas caroling. I got Christmas caroled in my like van at work by 3 kids in 2025.
that's
I didn't think
impressive.
people still did that. It was so nice and
That's
so out
so
of
wholesome.
nowhere. It was also on like my worst day at that job, worst like mentality wise, like I was crashing out bad.
It's almost like the
And
universe
I
gave you that Christmas carol. I haven't heard a Christmas carol in years. I swear,
yeah.
if we finish this podcast and a Christmas carol shows up at my house, I'm gonna be probably not surprised,
Well,
honestly.
It's the 30th. It's almost the 31st.
Yeah, it's a
Lucky
little
me, I don't
late.
have to see it.
Yeah.
But I think that that moment, I don't know if I believe in fate. I do believe in reincarnation in that I will get to experience everything that will be experienced. And I think that that was one of those core memories. Even though it doesn't entirely stick out much, like when I think back on it, the symbolism and metaphor for just how far I've come myself. Like you said before, we've all got our stories. We all got to where we are through some means, and we all justified it at some point. And the best thing you can do nowadays in your day to day life is just be the best person you can be. Don't spread hate. Be a part of your community if you can. Doesn't even need to be anything crazy. I started being a part of my community by eating lunch in a cafeteria as opposed to my dorm room. It is as shrimple as that.
Shrimple?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's what you were
it's
eating.
the baby steps. Don't, man, if I didn't dislike seafood, probably. That's a whole different thing.
That's true.
But
That's
the
great.
baby steps, the motivation that helps you take that first step is going to be the same motivation that helps you take that 100th, that 1000th, 1 millionth, 1 billionth step, however far you happen to go with your goals. But progress is still progress at the end of the day because you made that happen. No one else.
Amen. I think we should end it there.
I think we should.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. We got to do this
Thank
again.
you. Yes, of course, dude. Yeah, you said you had nerves before. I had nerves before as well. I had to like be sure I wasn't forgetting anything important. It, yeah, it was a bit stressful, but I'm glad that we could what's the word? Build that conversational rapport and all that
Yeah.
because I know that we've personally not really interacted much outside of I guess Rangers. We met the one time before or after
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Friday,
Public.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
fun.
It, yeah, thank you for recording this with me.
Yeah.
We definitely got to do this again. Uh, I've got other podcasters and apparently Aki. Yeah, they were talking about it last night. I'm gonna see if they want to do
That's
one as
right.
well. It's I think it's gonna go well because that was good and also
I think this is the
ending on a
start
thumbnail.
of like that Vanessa Carlton song. This is the start of a journey of 1,000 miles. Right.
Yeah, as
That's it.
sweet
That's all I
as it
got.
is.